Oh boy. Some changes to standard. Now, if you know me and my content, you know I like standard a lot. I think standard is really very, very important to the game. It's obviously had a rocky road in the last few years, but I think it is very, very important as an on-ramp format. Back when I was playing, 10, 15 years ago when I started playing Magic, F&M was standard. That was it. You go to your store, you do a few drafts, start playing standard, and you kind of go from there. That was your on-ramp to Magic the Gathering, which hasn't existed for years now. So, thankfully, Aaron Forsythe, Billy, Huey Jensen, they've been kind of aware of this, and they're going to be focusing on more on standard lately. Obviously, the PT was just standard. Did a review. I did my recap on that. Go watch on YouTube. And it's an announcement. Let's take a look at it. So basically, them recognizing the standard is very, very important for game stores. F&M, right now F&Ms are often like Commander or like Pioneer or Modern. They're scattered. A lot of Magic in general right now is very, very scattered and non-unified. There isn't a general feeling of like, oh, we just go play Magic. We just do this thing, Whereas 10, 15 years ago, every comic store in America and across the world, you'd walk in the door at 7 p.m. and you could bring your standard deck and bring some sleeves and you could either draft or play standard. Always. Anywhere. When we were in South Carolina for whatever, visiting family, I'd be like, oh, let's go on F&M here. Let's go do a draft. Let's go play standard. And that has been true for 5-6 years now. And a lot of it's been due to standard having a lot of issues, which is definitely totally fair. But I think that part of what the on-ramp for Magic is, if you want new players to start playing the game, drafting, standard, local game stores, that's a lot of what it's all about. Trying to have newer players learn through Modern, which is an obscenely expensive and confusing format, or Commander, where you say, okay, hey, new player, why don't you play a game with 3 other players, and there's 400 unique cards at the table. Go, have fun. Try to run the game this way. It's just too much, So I think standard is very, very important. And they feel that too, which is good. I think it's very, very important that they realize that. And I think that they're committing to putting more support to standard, putting more support to local stores, which I think is huge. They're changing the rotation cycle. It's going to be rotate every 3 years, not 2 years. Now, the goal of that is to make the cards more useful for longer time, so you feel better about buying in, and hopefully cheaper, I would assume, hopefully. The downside of that, of course, is like, wow, well, now versus, Fatal the Mirror Breaker or Oko or some dumb standard card, it'll be legal for longer. There's a give and take, and we'll see. So, more longevity. This is a real big one too here, allowing more cross-mechanic stuff. I'm really happy that they called out, I don't know exactly where, but one of the things that I read, they called out specifically trying to have more mechanic-based things work together. So, for example, in the last 5 years, almost every mechanic's been a failure. There was no party deck. There was no landfall deck. There was no whatever deck, because there weren't enough cards from each individual set to support that because there aren't blocks anymore. So they're focused on that, and they specifically called out how mid-range every standard format was because right here, perfect, yeah, exactly, and more interesting archetype decks and less mid-range, because when everyone's playing, when there aren't enough support for any of the linear decks, everyone just plays all the good cards and plays mid-range, which is very, very boring. So not very boring, but it's not very exciting. So that's where we're currently at right now. So I think that's good. That's great. That's a great goal to have. It's really, really cool. And then I think the most important part of this, longer rotation is kind of whatever. I'm kind of indifferent on that. The important thing is going to be supporting it and giving players a reason to show up. Used to be F&M promos. Used to be certain prizes for F&M. Used to be player reward programs where you played in more events and they would mail you every quarter. They would mail you a bunch of promos. So you get like a foil Cryptic Command or a foil whatever. You play an F&M, you get a foil for playing, and top beta players get a foil for this. Wizards can just print money. They can just print money, print foils, and that's the incentive to get people down, because you got to get people back into the flow of things. You got to train them to do an activity, and once they're trained to do it, they'll do it habitually as long as it's a fun activity to do. And back then it was like that. Again, you go to F&M, you play standard, so what you did every week, And especially more for younger players who have the time every Friday to go play, get them into the game. You need to really draw them in, So hopefully that'll be a part of it as well. Overall, I'd say I'm happy about this. I love standard. Are there things that need to be improved? Yes, but I think the most important thing is recognizing the value in draft and standard as a acquisition for new players function of the game. You can't just have Commander and Secret Layers. The game will die because you're not getting new players. You're just milking the players you already have. And that's huge. So that's how I feel about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and of course in Twitch chat. And like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. You're all great.